everyone. Welcome to the Make Space for More podcast, where we talk strategies for growing and scaling your business in a way that's authentic and aligned for you. I'm your host, Melissa Swink, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about why inbox zero won't grow your business. Now, I know. If you've been following me for any given period of time, you may recall that I used to be a huge advocate for inbox zero. I used to model it. I used to talk about it and teach on it. I even have a blog on this still on my website. If you kind of scroll back to some of the older blog posts, you can see there's a blog titled How I Achieve Inbox Zero Every Day. And while I certainly enjoy having a what I'll call tame inbox, where I feel like I have a sense of kind of where things are at, there's not a million unread messages. I have kind of a good system in place for maintaining it and keeping it at a manageable level. I no longer have inbox zero every day. I no longer use that as a place that I'm striving to attain. So here's kind of where my thought on this has changed is, while clearing our inboxes may feel productive, and I've certainly fallen into this camp before because I wanted to get through my inbox in that I wanted to get a good sense of where everything was at. If a client had a question or a team member had a question, or if there was anything that we were trying to work together on, or if a new prospect was introduced to me, or we had a continuing conversation going on with a potential client, you name it, I wanted to be on top of all of those things. And so for a long time, for many years, I put a huge level of importance on having an empty inbox, in that I was up to speed on all the things. But the truth is that by striving for inbox zero, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're moving the needle forward. So productivity versus actual profitability are not necessarily one and the same. And so I know that I have personally been working to shift from being in reactive task management mode into more strategic CEO level thinking and productivity. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So no matter where you're at with your inbox right now, like maybe you know that you spend way too much time on inbox and email, and you are constantly on top of those conversations. You're always checking on your phone and you're available, 24/7 to handle incoming requests. That might be one end that you're on. Or maybe you're like, you know what? My email is out of control. There are thousands of unread emails, and it's not something that I have always put a priority on getting organized and tamed to a level of manageability. It just, you know what? My email has just become this like monster that I just am not quite sure how to deal with. So no matter what end of the spectrum that you're coming from, I think today's conversation is going to be very, very beneficial for you. So the first thing that we want to identify is, why is inbox zero not necessarily the goal? Like why has my perspective shifted? Why do I feel now that we're spending way too much time in our inboxes? And I think the problem overall is that there is a point where we put too much emphasis on productivity and not enough on profitability. So again, when we talk about inbox zero, I know I have spent so much time and energy over the years maintaining a inbox zero, or I would even say like a sane inbox. We'll go ahead and say that. Having a very well-maintained inbox and being very quick to respond to questions that come in and be very timely in my responses. So I had all sorts of strategies wrapped up around inbox zero. To-do lists can be another one. Now, I am all for having a to-do list, in that you need to stay focused on the most important things that you can be doing every day. But what I'm talking about is kind of these endless to-do lists of all the things that need to get done, and not necessarily triaging these things from a level of importance, or running it through any sort of triage as to, who else may be able to help with this. So I'm talking about those long, endless to-do lists. Checklists are a similar side of the same coin. I think of to-do lists as miscellaneous tasks and project-oriented things that are on my plate versus checklists. I think of those as more routine things that need to be done on a regular basis. So an example of this, we do use a project management tool. Asana is what we use. And we have several templates in there for, say, when a new client starts onboarding with us, or when we have a team member join us up, or if we have an online event that's coming up. We have all these checklists. But the thing is that we have built these up, but I don't necessarily, as the CEO of my company, need to be the one doing the things on the checklist. So these are all kind of examples of productivity, places where we want to apply the latest in productivity, whether it be different strategies, maybe it's different tools or apps, but in reality, we can optimize these to the nth degree and still not necessarily be growing our businesses. So what we want to do is we want to shift to a quality versus a quantity conversation. So we don't want to shift away from quality. We want to do more quality. We want to do less quantity. And so that's really what this is all about, is maybe we need to take a step back from always focusing on how to do more with less. Maybe more is not actually what we want, but we actually want to be much more strategic about the things that we're doing and the way that we're spending our time. And the reality is that effective CEOs aren't trying to do it all. They have a team of people behind them. Their focus is on leadership, building relationships, planning, strategy, and all of those things. They're not the ones who are sitting there going like, how can I respond to, 100 more emails a day than I used to be able to? That's ridiculous. They have an assistant who's helping them with that. So when we think about, what does an effective CEO need to be able to do, I would think that we would all agree that having inbox zero is not necessarily in alignment with that. So I will take a step back before we start talking about what to do with this. So we know that we have these tasks that are coming in. We know that we have an endless number of messages coming across our desks on a day-to-day basis. What do we do about all that? I do want to take a little bit of a segue here for a moment just to share an update how my executive assistant is helping me manage my inbox and to-dos, because I'm always looking for more strategy for all of you and, how we serve our clients in terms of here's what's working really, really well. And how can you take that and apply that to, the work that you're doing, on your own with your team, with your clients and what have you. So I have a new executive assistant who started working with me. I think it was in April, May. It was April. So she's relatively new. And so when she came on board, I was like, I feel like there's still a lot that can be done in terms of giving me relief in my inbox. And we've tried a variety of different things over the years with, members of my team and such. But ultimately, I actually asked ChatGPT, I don't even remember the prompt anymore, but I basically said like, hey, I want to be able to use more AI tools to run our business more efficiently. And I want to be able to leverage more AI tools to serve our clients more effectively. And Chat basically came back to me and said, I think you need to start internally first. What are some of the things that you're spending the most of your time on? And so I said like email is definitely one of those things. And I also went through just a couple other communication tools that we're using. And so AI actually made some recommendations to how I could use these tools more effectively. And of course, it gave me a great start, but then I was able to kind of customize it based on how my brain works and how my business works. So I love using AI and ChatGPT, even just to get a starting point where I can kind of take it and run with it from there. So what I've done is I've created some email automations and rules for emails that are coming in on a regular basis, what to do with those. So for example, if a software company emails me the receipt for my subscription for the month, I don't necessarily need a human being opening that and moving that into our accounting receipts folder. Okay. So I went ahead and took some time and just created some rules. When this type of email comes in from this email address, I want it to go to this folder. So it took a little bit of time to do that. So you can be thinking about what are some of the things that are coming into my inbox on a regular basis that I just need to go ahead and file away. So start thinking about that. So that's the first thing that I did. I have a handful of rules. I have rules for our receipts that are coming in for subscriptions. I have a rule for when my paycheck stub comes in from my bookkeeper. I have a rule created for the emails from my business mastermind group, my coaching group that I'm in. So I have all these rules created. So that way we're not reinventing the wheel every time that something recurring is coming into the inbox. So that was the first step. And then what my assistant and I have worked together on is creating kind of 4 working email folders, if you will. Now, this is in addition to all the email folders that I have, what I call down below, where I have all of our client folders, I have all of our team folders, I have different programs that I'm in, just all the different things that need to be filed away. So I can find them if I need to look back on something. But I would say we have 4 main working folders that we're using all the time. And these might not be exact titles. I don't remember them off the top of my head. And I'm certainly not going to open my email in the middle of this podcast and get completely distracted by what's in there. But we have action, like action by Melissa, I think is what it says. And so anything that my assistant, when she logs in to manage my email in the morning and throughout the day, anything that comes in that truly I am the only one who can handle and manage, it goes into that folder. And then the second email, or the second working box that we have, or working folder that we have, is client and team FYIs. So these are things that I don't need to take action on, but would be helpful for me to know. Like, hey, so-and-so is going on vacation and so-and-so will be filling in. Or this client has decided that they want to go in this direction with their content. They would rather not go in the direction over here. Just little updates and things like that. So I read it, I file it away. Like, okay, great, good to know. And then I have an email, or I should say a folder that says Melissa to read. And these are where the newsletters come in. The ones that I have chosen to stay subscribed to that I actually do want to look through, or these are things from maybe my business coach. She sends out a daily email just with kind of a food for thought for the day sort of a thing. And so that will go in that folder. So those are just to read. I know that the Melissa to read folder is not time sensitive. So that can build up over a few days if needed. It's no big deal. The client team FYIs, that's just kind of keeping me posted on things that are in the works, like things that are kind of happening in real time. So I will put an emphasis on reading those before the Melissa to read folder. And then lastly, the EA handling folder. So my assistant, Janelle, the things that she is handling, she just funnels over into that folder. So I can see some of the things that she's working on if there's ever a question or what is in the works, where something is at. And I know that she is handling it. I do not need to handle it. So those are kind of our 4 working folders, and that has been immensely helpful for being able to go in and triage my inbox very, very quickly in the mornings when I log in and throughout the day. And certainly we use Asana to manage our tasks and projects as well, as I've mentioned. So if Janelle sees that there is something that I need to do, she will go ahead and add a task for me in Asana and say, like, see email for details and things like that. Or she might say, follow up with so-and-so on, regarding this question, or, what have you. So she's adding those tasks for me in Asana as well, assuming there's something that she is not able to do. And so overall, I am doing fewer tasks, especially trying to manage all the moving parts and pieces and communications that are coming through via email, and using my time on more important things. So that is currently how my inbox is set up and how my executive assistant is helping me manage all of those things. So kind of going back to the overall theme of our episode today with Inbox Zero, not necessarily growing your business. what we want to do, if you're finding that, you know what, you're right, I'm spending way too much time in my email, and I'm going to go ahead and say just communications in general, because we have a lot of tools that we're using. Maybe for you it's Slack, or maybe it is your project management tool where there's a lot of comments coming in and that's where your team is communicating. We use an app called Boxer, which is like a voice messaging app, cuts down on a lot of long emails, a lot of meetings, but still there's messages coming in from all over the place. And so if you're finding that you're just spending way too much time on this and other related task things to that, what we want to do is we want to just take a pause and audit where you're spending your time. So I talk a lot about calendar audits, especially at the beginning of every year, kind of in that December, January timeframe, where everyone's kind of evaluating how the previous year went, what we're looking to create this coming year. And so you can certainly check back on some of those episodes on calendar audits and things like that. But now that we're about halfway through the year, it may be a good time to just kind of pause and reassess and do like a mini calendar audit, if you will, like where am I spending my time? And so what we want to look for, as I mentioned, communication traps, particularly related to today's topic. How much time are you spending in email? How much time are you spending on Slack? How much time are you spending responding to text messages? Or how much time are you spending in meetings? That's another one. Are there just way too many meetings on your calendar and you need to start being more decisive in terms of which meetings you truly need to attend and even what needs to be a meeting in the first place? Maybe there are more efficient ways of serving your customers or working with your team. So that's a big one to look for, communication traps. Like what are some of the things in terms of communicating with others that are just taking way too much of your time? And often related to that is kind of our low level tasks, our busy work that comes out of that, like send a follow up to so-and-so. Or, another example here that I like to use is, maybe you receive an introduction to a potential client and you say, hey, so-and-so, I'd love to meet with you. And you offer some times to meet, and then you don't hear back from that person. And then you circle back and you offer some fresh times to meet with them because those times are now past. And you kind of just go into the spiral. That's another example of just kind of the busy work that gets related to these situations. Another example could be that a project is complete and now you need to send out the invoice. Again, if you are in the midst of all this communication and you have, homework tasks or follow-up tasks related to all that communication, that is a huge part of what we can be looking for here in our calendar audits. And then the most important thing, once we kind of gather where is all my communication time spent, what is all the busy work that I'm doing and related to all of that, who can help you streamline and take this off your plate? This may not be something that you can assess on your own. This might be a really great opportunity for you to sit down with your VA and say, hey, I did an assessment of where I'm spending my time. Here are all the things that I'm finding that I'm just spending way too much time on, or that I feel could be a lot easier, or that somebody else might be able to take over. And your VA would have, I would hope, have a wealth of ideas and knowledge in terms of how they can help you, or different tools and things that can help you to streamline this. It's often very hard to see this for yourself. That's why I say, bring this up in a team meeting, bring this up when you meet with your VA. If you don't have a VA or a team that you can bounce these ideas off of, is there a business bestie, if you will, or a business coach, or somebody else that you're working with and you respect the way that they do business and they handle themselves? Can you review that with them and have them bring up some ideas on how you might be able to solve this problem? Don't do this step on your own. Review what you're doing, get that list together, and bring somebody else into the conversation so you can get some outside advice, because it is very difficult often to see the forest through the trees, if you will. So then once we have that conversation and we identify, here are some of the things that I need to streamline, here are some of the things that I need to delegate, what we want to do is, with that time that we've now freed up, we want to use time blocking in order to prioritize CEO level tasks and also to protect that time. Because when we open up some additional time, the last thing we want is for that to inevitably fill up with all the miscellaneous requests and to-dos and things that you try to get off your plate in the first place. So we want to be on offense, not on defense here. So just a quick recap. What is CEO time? It should be your time spent visioning, planning, doing some strategy work, doing some team development, having conversations with potential collaborators, things that are actually going to grow your business and make it better versus being kind of in that busy work mode. So those are the big picture, higher level things that we want to be reserving time on. So are there times of each day, at least an hour, that you can devote to some of these things that you can block off on your calendar so nobody can take that time, nobody can schedule you during that time, so that you can be heads down and looking at the business overall, working on the business versus working in it? So if it's not feasible for you to necessarily block off, an hour here or 2 hours there throughout the course of your week, maybe you want to consolidate to some theme days. That's another option where maybe you have meetings back to back on, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and then you reserve Mondays and Fridays for more of your CEO work so that you're not having those interruptions of those meetings. And again, what we want to do here, we want to block the time on the calendar, right? Because if it's not on the calendar, it's likely not going to happen. It doesn't exist. So we want to reserve that time on the calendar. And I have plenty of episodes about calendar blocking and time blocking, designing CEO work weeks, the ideal CEO work week. There's a lot of episodes about all this. So I'm not going to go too far down that rabbit hole, but we want to make sure that we are setting aside that time and being very specific and intentional about how we're spending it. And this is also going to be important that you have the boundaries and the discipline in place in order to honor those time blocks that you have in place. So things could be as simple as turning off your phone or putting it on do not disturb, closing out of email, or even using something like Boomerang to pause your inbox so it's not bringing in new emails as you're trying to work. This could also be closing your door if you have an office and letting your team know, I'm going to be heads down until 10 o'clock. And then making sure that you don't have those interruptions, those little knock, knock, got a question for you, or do you have a minute sort of a thing. So the boundaries, but then also the discipline that you are going to show up as the CEO during that time that you have blocked off and not fill it with things that, putting out fires or reacting to different things, that you're actually going to put all of that aside, even all the things that are happening and swirling, and being heads down and focusing on your business. So I hope that this was helpful for you. I hope that this inbox and email management episode was helpful for you in terms of, letting go of perfection here, letting go of the need to constantly be looking at how can I do more with less? How can I do more with less? And actually, it's not necessarily doing more. It's being highly strategic of the things that you are doing. So if this was helpful for you, please consider subscribing to support the podcast. I'm always happy to have that support from you. And also that just helps to ensure that you don't miss an episode, because I am coming to you every week with more tips and tools and strategies to grow your business in a way that is aligned for you. This is not about, again, doing more, about hustling, and it's not about the grind. It is being intentional and consistent in growing your business in a way that makes sense for you. So I appreciate you tuning in today, and I will be back next week with another episode of Make Space for More. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Make Space for More. We know these insights are valuable, and we hope you are inspired to keep growing your business beyond you. Remember, growth is a journey, and you don't have to go it alone. Until next time, keep automating, delegating, and elevating your business. This is Melissa Swink, and I'll see you on the next episode of Make Space for More.